Hello everyone, welcome to .NET Training Academy. In this video, we are going to learn about a new topic, and the topic is C#.NET can also run in the browsers like Chrome, Mozilla, Firefox, Safari, your favorite browsers, and it also runs in your front end as the replacement of JavaScript, which is user interactivity. Really shocked, right? Yeah, let's get into it. So I'm Rajaraman. I'm an entrepreneur of Chain Universe software company. Blazor is a single-page application framework, just like Angular, Vue, React, but it is not that mature because it is very new, and it is not that powerful because it is not in the production mode, it's in the experimental mode. So it's basically for building interactive client-side web apps using .NET. Blazor uses the open web standards without a plugin or code transpilations. Uh, Almost Blazor can work in all the modern web browsers. One interesting thing that Blazor can do is you can write your front end using your own language, which is C#. If you are a .NET developer, it is a very, very happiest thing in your life that you can develop or you can make that interactive things just using your own language called C#. So, which means C# can run in the front end as well as in the back end. So it's kind of like the JavaScript, like a Node.js can run in the back end as well as the JavaScript can handle the front end. So that's the very similar thing. Okay, so what are they? So let's talk about the architecture of the Blazor. So basically, the Blazor runs in top of the WebAssembly. WebAssembly is a new type of code that can be run in modern web browsers. It is a low-level assembly language with compact binary formats that runs with performance, and it also has the support languages such as C++ with the compilation, and you can make use of your own language like C#, Java, whatever that you want. And here we are focusing about C#.NET. So if we wanted to talk about the architecture, basically the C# code and the Razor files are compiled into the .NET assemblies as a DLL files, and that assemblies in the .NET runtime are downloaded in the browser, and after that the Blazor runs the .NET runtime and configure that runtime to load the assemblies. And after that, it can able to interact with the browser APIs and the DOMs and the HTTP requests, and it can also perform JavaScript interoperability, which is you can also use the JavaScript whenever that you want. So this is the basic architecture of Blazor. And if you want, Blazor has most common features which is available in the single-page application framework like Angular, React, Vue, and those features are parameters, passing the parameters, event handling, data binding, one-way, two-way data binding, and the routing, which is the single-page routing, and the dependency injection, layouts, and templating, and cascading values, components. So when it comes to single-page application, components and routing plays an important role. So when it comes to component, you have to learn about the component very So very important thing in a single page application is the component. So it is also called as Razor components. Razor component is a piece of UI such as a page, a dialog, a data entry form, whatever form it will be. And to be more clear, this is a particular component like a navbar component and the post component, as well as the profile view component and the news component and the gallery component, and finally that chat friend list component. Everything is basically a piece of UI. It may be in the form of static or dynamic. What I mean is just a normal HTML, CSS files, or those files as the interaction with the database. So when it comes to these things, which means the dynamic things like the post and the news galleries, each and everything is interacting with the separate tables in the database. So you need to query a separate, you need to interact with the separate tables in the query, right? So the problem is it is really very hard to handle a lot of things in a single page application. So the very easiest way to achieve not only the very easiest way to achieve these kind of things using the Ajax way, like not reloading the page entirely, just reloading the particular component which demands that particular thing. So that is the one of the advantage of using these kind of things. So these components, these dynamic components, are not only the interactive in the client side, it is also interactive from the server side. So basically, it's an awesome thing. So to be more clear, each and every application has a root component, whereas that root is the actual page of your application. In that particular page, you have a post component, friends online component, gallery component, and colleagues online component, comment component, and like reply component. So if you see, each and every component will interact with separate tables in a database. For example, post has a post table, comment has a comment table, like has a like table, reply has a reply table. Even though these tables are united using the relationship, but the thing is, but it is a separate table. So all the tables are come together into a single page, right? So in the earlier days, if you wanted to interact with a particular database, you need to interact with the server, right? So if you want to hit the server, the page automatically reloads. Not only that particular thing, it just reloads all the components, all the HTML stuffs. But the thing is, it just makes the user to frustrate. Not only frustrate, the performance also loses. So when you're using these kind of things like single page application, component based application, if user just clicking that like button, the like it will goes and hit the server, and that server is going to interact with the database, and it will again return some data, and the like value will update, right? So that is the coolest thing, which is that particular like component only going to change. The other components like post, comment, reply, friends online, colleagues, gallery remains same. So this is the Blazor thing. So let's get started. So let's create a new Blazor application. So for that, you need to use the command called .NET new Blazor -o to open, and you have to mention the application name, whereas here BMI calculator is an application that we are going to create. Okay, that's fine. We just created a new application, which is a BMI calculator. So let's talk about the anatomy of this Blazor application. Here you're having the pages, which is array the pages, and the shared layout kind of things. And here all you're just having the CS HTML files, and inside the www route, which has the static files like CSS and the data and the index.html kind of things. And finally, you're having the app.cshtml, which creates the router assembly. We'll talk about these kind of things later. And you're having the program and startup CSS, just like all the ASP.NET Core application does. So to make sure to note, so here you need to clearly watch that the app.add component has this particular app class, app.cshtml, which has the router assembly. So we'll talk about these kind of things deeply in the later of the series, but now we just get into the bits of the Blazor. Okay, fine. So first we talk about the shared thing. Here we are having, first we have to talk about this the index.html. So here you are importing the CSS and Bootstrap things, and here you are creating an app element, and which is the actual element which here you're creating an app element which loads until these pages components loads. Okay, so basically, and first we talk about the main layout, and here in the main layout you have the now menu. You're having the we'll talk about the layouts later, but now you just need to understand that layout works in this way. You're having a sidebar, which is a now menu, and here you're having the body. The reason that this is something like this means these all the contents are remain same across all the pages. The only things which is going to change is this body. And inside this only we are going to use these kind of components or pages, whatever you would like to call. Okay, fine. Here we are having counter component, fetch data component, index.html component. So these are all the things. So let's take a quick look about the recap about this thing. So here we are having a pages folder. In that you can have the pages, which is called the components that you would like to have. And here you are having a shared component, a shared folder where you can use the very common things in your application, like shared things. And in the www route, you're having the static files like index HTML files and root for CSS files, and the program and startup.css, which helps to enable or bootstrap the application. Okay, so now let's just run this application. So before that, we need to get inside the particular folder, which is BMI, capital BMI. Now I'm going to run this application, not yet run. Okay, let's just run this application by clicking command click. So if you see, that particular loading thing is the actual thing that we seen over here, like here in the index.html, which is the app. And before rendering all the HTML and CSS things, this preloader will works. So that is the whole point. And here you are having the basic layout, which is a common layout. And here you're having the component. So okay, let's go over and let's just check this application. Here you're having the counter, where if you click all of these things, it just interact together to create something really cool. And here this fetch data will fetch the data as a JSON, as a REST API kind of things. And first we talk about this counter. So let's just dissect the things in the counter.cshtml. So if you create, this is the normal razor thing. If you create a page using this page underscore counter kind of things, it will create a new page. Here's the interactive thing, which is populated from here. Okay, so you're here creating your own function using the helper tag called functions, and as well as that you're going to create a variable current counter. And if you click this particular method, like just like over here in on click, it will increment. So just like that we see over here, if you click, it will increment, right? So the next thing is, if you want to see this thing, just go ahead and in the counter, and this particular page is a component. So the component I already explained how it works. So just to make sure that this is a component, what I can do is I can paste that stuff over here, like cal counter, just like this counter. Okay, I can just use the class name, I mean the page name, and I can make that as an element, just like an inline element. So if I call this thing, and that particular data will appear over here. So here, though it is a preview mode or experimental thing, it doesn't provide the debugging stuff. So we have to stop and again run the application. Okay, let's just reload this particular application. And if you see, here's this thing, whatever which is over there in this particular page, which is came over here. And not only that, you can also do multiple number of times, just like this. So here I just pasted this particular counter component multiple times. So in this particular page, we can see that particular component is replicating number of times, and each works in a separate state, right? So if you click a number of times, it will works on the particular own state. So that is the very cool thing. And here if you see that particular fetch data, you are fetching the data over here, just like using the HTTP client method, HTTP client namespace, which is the library in the ASP.NET Core, and using the get JSON async generic collection. You're just grabbing the data here from the sample data weather.json, and it's just displaying as like here. Okay, so thus you can also use the fetch the dynamic REST APIs, just like the a lot of cool SPA frameworks can do, like Vue, React, Angular. So let's come over here to again to the counter. So we talked about the routing things, just like well, we just talked about the component things, how the component works, and how to use that particular components in the other pages. Like here, the index is the main component, whereas you have having the survey component as the child component, and as well as the counter component as the child component. In this particular counter component, you can also have some other child component like you can make use of, so that it will replicate, it will hierarchically goes down here. If you use this counter component, it not only use this particular thing, it is also use that child component. So that's the whole view of components. So the next thing that we have to see is to how to use the parameter in Blazor things. You can also use the parameter called. Okay, let's take about the scenario of if I click this thing, I'm just incrementing by 1, right? So what you can do is you can pass the parameter. Okay, you can pass the parameter, and using that parameter, it has to increment. Okay, so just like that we can do. So for that, what we have to do is to use the attribute called parameter, and you have to create a property like private int increment count, like get set is equal to 1. Okay, so here you can by default we are just initializing the increment value as 1, so the current count plus or equal to increment count. Okay, so this is a cool thing. So what you can do is you can, if you are using this counter over here, you can pass the increment amount, sorry, the increment count thing over here, like passing as 10. So let's just run this application again. So here we're getting an error. The type counter already contains a definition for increment count. Oh yeah, the thing is we are already having the method as the increment count, so I'll just change this from increment count to increment amount. So here also I need to change that. So this particular thing is the parameter, and here we are passing the parameter, and by means of the parameter, this action, this operation will vary. Okay, so let's just run this application again, just by fixing this error. Okay, let's just go over here and reload this application. Go to the home page, and here just I'm passing the increment count as 10. You can clearly see this count will increment by 10. So that's how I'm passing the parameter, right? So what I can do is to make these things really very interactive. Just input type equal to text, and I can also bind this particular thing in val the placeholder, enter the number of values to increment. So that's it. So let's check the stuff. So the next thing that I wanted to do is to, we can use this particular value, I like incval instead of this amount. So let's check this stuff whether it is working or not, because I'm also very new to the Blazor. Oh yeah, here it just throws the error. The error is the increment tag helper, the declaration area, the attribute increment requires a value. The tag helper. Okay. Okay, fine. So ink well. See, oh, here it is saying inkwell doesn't exist in the current context. So what I can do is I can create a functions. So I can create a functions, and I just can able to initialize the inkwell. Okay, fine. So here it is saying cannot convert an integer to string to integer, because the value that we are using over here is the integer. So we'll just do something interesting. I just change this to integer. Okay, so here I can convert that stuff into string. I mean integer, right? So convert dot to int and the increment amount. Just to make sure, copy paste this thing. Okay, let's just run this stuff again. Convert type string to integer to int doesn't contain the definition of to int 32. Oh yeah, I need to using, oh yeah, system, right? Okay, I can do this thing. Yeah, it's just completed without any error. So let's just reload the stuff. Here we are having the value, and if we find this thing, okay, the problem is we didn't get into the event handling thing, right? We need a submit button over here so that it can able to interact accordingly. So for that, what I can do is to create a button over here using the button on click, okay, at find increment value, okay. So yeah, I need to create a method based on this void. Here I need to create a method like bind increment value. So here I can set this increment value, inc value is equal to inc value. Just this is not at all useful. I can do another thing like string return val. So I can able to return val, and now I can assign this return val the value of this input to this return val variable, so that I can paste this return val over here. Okay, just run this thing again. So let's just run this thing again. .NET run. Okay, reload. Here we are having the button. Oh my god. Okay, let's just reload this application. Yeah, you're having a value 6, enter. Yeah, it just works fine. So here you're incrementing the value based on the input that you're giving. So once you click this stuff, and it will be increment based on where. So this is really a cool thing, so that you are doing the things which can be done by the JavaScript things just using the C#. So this is the bind. It's basically bind attribute is used for the data binding. Here you can bind the data, anything which is inside this function helper. whatever that you're declaring inside this function that can be bind. There'll be one-way binding and two-way binding. And we'll talk about that one-way and two-way binding later in this course. Later in this series. So that's it for this video. If you like the video, please like, share with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and if you have any queries or objections, please comment that below. Thank you. I'll see you, or I'll catch you with another new video.